Hey everybody, welcome to the InPsight Show. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall too everywhere. How is everybody? Oh, you guys, I am loving this new studio. Man, it was such a labor of love to get this thing going, and it took forever, but it's beautiful, and we have such production capacity now. So thanks everybody for your patience. This has been magnificent, and on we go. So guys, I'm just going to dive right into our show topic today, which is the big reset. We've got a lot coming up in the many months. And just when you're about ready to say, how could we have more that's going to come up? What are you talking about? Just keep in mind, guys, that this is a time frame. It really is a time frame of some really serious adjustment. And we're adjusting a lot of things. We're adjusting how we move forward as a country. We're adjusting how we move forward with our government. We're adjusting how we think about ourselves as people in a nation. We're adjusting who we are with our neighbors and our spouses. And there's a lot of adjustment, guys. Okay. So I just want everybody to know this so that we can be patient through the days to come. We've got many months to go here. And one of the things that we can really look forward to is decisive change. Now, when we talk about decisive change, that gets really tough because, what are you talking about at that point? What's decisive about it? Obviously, there's a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump. There's people who didn't vote for Donald Trump. And, we've got Doge that's gutting everything, and well, that's going to come to an end. But the fact of the matter, guys, is that each one of these weird distractions is something that is being enacted by a president of the United States who owes everybody everything just to stay out of jail. So he owes favors to the Heritage Foundation. He owes favors to Putin. He owes favors to everybody. And Donald Trump, whether you love him or hate him, is indeed a clinical narcissist. And what's so interesting about this is that he is in a living hell for himself right now, because there's nothing worse for a clinical narcissist than to have to actually, do what they said they were going to do. That's not what they do, right? And here's Donald Trump. He's had a lifetime of doing whatever it is he wants to do and not paying contractors and not living up to what he said he'd do. It gets to the point where, it's a little ridiculous, right? So as we move through this time frame, we're going to see some disturbing things, and I don't want to lean too heavily into the disturbing things because I'm noticing that everybody just lives on the disturbing stuff. And guys, we don't need to do that. But what I would like to tell you is this big reset that's happening is massive, and it goes across many levels. We're going to be seeing things from a federal government perspective that we didn't think we'd see. Deployment of the military to try to settle down a protest. We're going to see all kinds of things. So one of the things that I would tell you is that during this big reset period, one of the things that we can look forward to is the newness coming in and also people coming together. So in the big reset, we are watching certain things like economic issues fall apart. We're going to continue to have some pretty raunchy inflation, guys. That's a thing. So just be prepared and don't overspend right now. It's not a good idea. But when we go into these moments like we're headed into, it's really important that we keep our consciousness out of the gutter because especially with a lot of my lefty friends, there's a lot of hand-wringing, there's a lot of freaking out, there's all kinds of things. One of the things that I would point out here is that everything has got to go this way so that we will learn a pretty precise lesson about coming together on what's important for all of us. Now, I know there's quite a number of you out there, and I've been hearing this from clients and from colleagues that are saying, why do we have to learn this way? Well, I'll tell you guys, we kind of flunked the whole COVID test. We were supposed to come forward at COVID-19 and learn how to live with one another and be better neighbors. We were supposed to come forward and work harder to maintain, our neighborhoods and our world. And what did we do in America land? We melted down. We totally melted down. We freaked out. We didn't want to deal with anything. We kind of biffed it, you guys, on the COVID experience here in the United States. So that wasn't so hot, guys. And we're unfortunately not going to get out of this experience right now without learning how to put some ideological differences aside and come together. Now, I know that's making a lot of people angry. I have a very dear friend of mine, and my dear friend has always been a fired up person. She's always been, running around with her hair on fire about all kinds of things. And when she hears me say things like, listen, we're going to have to figure out how to reach across aisles, or what can we do to not isolate the people who voted differently than we did because they're in the same boiling pot we are. She literally will look at me and say, well, you have fun with that. I personally wish every single one of those people a painful death. I have nothing nice to say about them. Okay. And I'm like, well, you do you, girl. But the problem there, gang, is that we're all going to be in a situation where we're in the boiling pot together. And there are going to be a considerable amount of people who voted for Donald Trump who are really unhappy with the way that things are going. Just give it a minute. Just give it a minute. I'm kind of jumping the gun with this particular podcast because there's a podcast behind it. But I kind of moved this one up to the front because we're now seeing the National Guard was deployed in Los Angeles, right? And now the Marines are headed there. And I know people in the Guard, and the people that I know in the Guard are pissed about going to LA to stand around. I mean, it's not the first time that National Guard has been deployed to deal with civil unrest issues. That's not it's happened before, you guys. But the point is that the people that I know in the Guard are pissed about it because a lot of them are saying, well, why weren't we deployed on January 6th? Where was that deployment? But of course, during that time, that obviously, benefited the sitting president to have January 6th happen. So when we look forward to what's going on in this big reset, we're being asked to reevaluate how we look at ourselves and look at others. And I know a lot of people are not real super happy about that. My friend being one of them. She basically told it to stick it up my nose. Well, that's not where she told me to stick it. But she was not happy about me saying, listen, we've got to allow people to sit at our table because there's going to be a lot of lost people. And her response to that was, well, they chose being lost. That's not my problem. Okay, fine. Yet, gang, this is a big reset. We failed the COVID experience. We failed the COVID experiment because we were supposed to be coming together as a world and as a society for basically a needs bigger than ourselves to get out there and be able to say, oh gosh, let's just not, have this big nightmare. Let's come together and fix the world as a globe. We're supposed to be looking at our existence right now like an astronaut would. We hear about these astronauts that go to space and they look at the Earth and they have these epiphanies, you guys. And the Earth is this massive, most important thing. It is the top of the food chain of importance. And then on top of that, living together as a species on the Earth is the second most important thing. And then the third most important thing kind of is economy and what we're doing. When you're up there in space, you realize how fragile it is down here. So yeah, guys, we failed the COVID experience. We failed the experiment. That sucks. We sure did. So with that fail, now we've got the Donald Trump experience, which is, hi, I'm a person who's a clinical narcissist who is designed to play a role that will show you exactly what entirely sociopathic consumerism looks like and self-serving energies look like. And then you can decide if you want to go down that path or not. And what's so confusing for so many people that I know here in Montana, people who voted for Trump, is that these are individuals who don't even believe that a person could begin to get away with the stuff that Trump not only has gotten away with, but they don't even believe that a person could be guilty to that level. Like they don't even think that that's possible to be that crooked as the president. These are folks who, for all intents and purposes, I don't want to call these folks naive. They're very smart human beings, intelligent. Yet when you're in Montana, you guys, we're a landlocked island over here. And if you don't get out of this area very much, then there is sort of this live and let live, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, help out your neighbor, be a good person, don't be a jerk. There's this whole credo to living out here that unfortunately a lot of Montanans think that everybody else in the rest of the world lives their life by, and that's just not true. So we've got a lot of Trump voters in this area who, honest to God, believe that there is no one on earth that could be as crooked as Donald Trump, not even Joe Biden, and they think it's all made up because they just have zero reference for anybody who would be that self-serving. So there's really no talking to somebody about, hey, this guy's kind of been like that his whole life, because it just blows their circuit breaker. There's just no way they believe somebody would be that awful, no matter who. It's awkward when you're actually seeing someone like Donald Trump who is living up to his karmic agreement. He totally is, everybody. He is enacting exactly what he was put on this planet to do. He's enacting the biggest caricature of self-serving behavior that you could possibly imagine. This is what this guy is doing. And it's his job, okay? And he's doing a great job of it. So now we've got him spouting off about whatever crazy of the day. Our sitting president does have dementia issues. Those dementia issues are, when I look into them psychically, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I look into them psychically. And those dementia issues are associated with poor nutrition, years and years of poor nutrition that just starves the prefrontal cortex. I see dementia issues there that are genetic. I also see the type of dementia issue that you come upon if you live in your own bubble. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, yet if you continue to live in your own bubble, you start to warp your brain because your brain never has to solve any problems. You just create a reality and you hire a group of yes men to get in there and make your reality be, whatever it is you think it needs to be, and you're done. I mean that is quite literally what Donald Trump has done. So there is a lot in his brain, guys, that just is not wired like your brain or my brain would be wired. Plus, there's a lot of drug abuse. There's Coke, there's Adderall, and I'm not talking just a little 80s Coke. I'm not talking a little 90s Coke at a party. I'm talking I need to be up, and I need to be functioning, and I'm a 78-year-old man. So I'm needing to take whatever drug I can to keep my brain sharp and moving. And if you've noticed any of these recent interviews with Donald Trump, since he's become POTUS this time, he is just not a happy guy. The first time he was president, he was all smiles and bravado and, hey, look at me, I'm the president. Actually, when they first interviewed him after he won, he was freaked out. So was Melania. They both were like, what the effing hell just happened? We're screwed. I don't know what's going to happen now. But this second time, he knew the only reason he even ran and the only reason he even got elected was because of, to stay out of jail, to stay out of prison. That was it. And he knew that he was going to owe a lot of really scary people a lot of favors, guys. So watch him. Watch Donald Trump when he speaks. He's really tired. He's kind of talking like this. And, when he signs his bills, he signs them and looks like he wants to throw up in his mouth. And he holds the bills up. The guy never smiles anymore. What does he have to smile about? He's a clinical narcissist that has to do what everybody wants him to do. This goes against every fiber of Donald Trump's being. He doesn't do what people want him to do. He does whatever the hell he wants to do. So this man currently is quite frankly in a living hell every day he's alive. Now, I know there's a lot of you listening that are like, good, he deserves it. Well, here's a news flash for you. Donald Trump has been in a living hell, you guys, since he was about 7 years old. His dad was super mean to him. His mom was bat crap crazy. And there really was no love there. That's how that individual was created. So for those of you Schadenfreude people out there who want to cheer on someone else's misfortune, you can go clear back to the time he was 7. And this guy's been suffering ever since, which is why he just patches his life up with hookers and drugs and victimizing people and bravado and lies. And I mean, he just has this world he lives in that's not even part of reality, but it's his world. So this is our president. And our president who doesn't want to owe favors to anybody and owes them to the globe, to every rotten crud bag everywhere on the globe. He owes favors. And these are people he's a little afraid of. Okay, let's be real clear. Donald Trump is not a brave man, guys. He ditched out of the draft. He never faces anything. He had a team of yes men that bought him out of every single lawsuit. I mean, he's just not a brave guy. Okay, so he's afraid of the people he owes favors to. So why am I going so far into Donald Trump and the big reset? Because we are going to see outrageous things. We're already seeing outrageous things. There were a couple of podcasts that didn't quite hit. They didn't quite hit their distribution point as they were supposed to here, that were covering things like, the fallout that's happened with Doge and Elon. And that's something that I've been talking to my Patreon group about, is that relationship was going to implode. I've been posting a little bit, you guys, on socials about this stuff, but not a whole lot. Because at this point, what are you going to say? I mean, at this point, I just sound like, I'm patting myself on the back for calling things predictively, and that's kind of not what I'm here to do. But I have been talking about how Trump and Elon were going to have a falling out, and we hit the 4-month part that I had seen that the angels showed me, where they would have their little breakup, and they did. This just recently happened. So we've got all of these different cascading things happening. ICE raids. How about ICE, you guys? Wow, let me just tell you the psychology of ICE, okay? It's very important in the big reset that we all understand the psychological implications of what's being done, because it's purposefully being done. ICE, these human beings running around wearing full face masks and hats and mirrored sunglasses, like a really bad scene out of Mission Impossible. I mean, this is PSYOPs stuff that's straight out of the CIA handbook. It's so overdone in the 21st century in this interconnected world. It is so sad and weird. And honestly, if you're an ICE person and you're doing good work for the government, why are you covering your face? You know why? Because you don't want people to know that you're a brown shirt. You don't want people to know who you are, because what you're doing is so sketchy. You don't want people showing up on your doorstep going, hey, you're part of ICE and you're a crud bag and what's your problem? So we've got ICE diving over railings on sidewalk cafes. Like a 3-foot railing, you're sitting out at a sidewalk cafe, tackling someone having lunch and, bagging their head and zip tying their hands. And it is psychologically so disturbing, you guys. And that's really what we need to be paying attention to, because it's supposed to be. The people who are orchestrating this, the Heritage Foundation, it's supposed to deeply disturb people. It's supposed to incite violence from the people so that people like Trump can then order martial law. And then we've got, Handmaid's Tale City going on. So it's kind of interesting right now. We have these ICE raiders who go into sanctuary cities like Los Angeles and then basically cause problems, and all of the protesters back them into a corner. Then the ICE guys have to yell and cry, help, help, come save us, come save us. They've apprehended who they need to apprehend. But now they're crying, oh, help us, help us, help us. So then the local police have to get them out, but they got the person they apprehended. So that's how they're apprehending people in sanctuary cities, right? So the most interesting thing of all would be if in the Big Reset, if people never even let ICE in. And what's fascinating here is that there's some loopholes that this Heritage Foundation, who of course are the authors of Project 2025, and even some of the PSYOP stuff from Russia, there are some loopholes that this administration is trying to really take advantage of. And a lot of those loopholes, guys, have to do with inciting violence. They're just trying to get people so pissed off that normal citizens start to break the law. And this is a real delicate balance to walk because we, the people, want to be lawful. We want to say, not in our town, not in our city, get out ICE. Obviously, we have laws. We have immigration laws. We have all kinds of laws to uphold. Yet I'd really like to see some of these people who are hiring the illegals slapped with some sort of penalty. You know, if we really truly are this bent out of shape about people being here illegally, then why aren't we punishing those who are hiring the folks? Why are we just punishing the people who are trying to make a better life for themselves and are running away from other war-torn countries and all these other things? And I don't have an answer for immigration except to tell you that there would be a far more practical path to citizenship that I do see is possible through coming on saying, I would like to work in the United States for X amount of time. I'd like to start paying taxes. At the end of this certain time of working and paying taxes, I'll take my test and then I'm a citizen or whatever. We could do it that way. We could very much have people come in and work because that's what they're doing now anyway. So I don't have that answer. However, I will tell you that in the Big Reset, we must come up with ways to deal with that which we do not agree with in nonviolent means. Because we got to outsmart the old world, guys. That's what's going on in the Big Reset. So Donald Trump, he's old world all the way through. Heritage Foundation, super old world, 1850 old world, okay? I mean, Putin is a relic. This guy is a relic, blowing up Ukraine and just trying like crazy to hang on to this Mother Russia idea as his own illnesses are circling around and killing him too. So we've got these white old men who have had whatever privilege they've had in their societies, trying to make these calls for a completely changed world, you guys. The whole world has changed. The whole world has changed. So it would be like, it's just so nonsensical, you guys. It would be like if I was this, evil person, and in my evil person, and my pinky is up against the corner of my mouth, evil. It would be like if I got together with a bunch of crazy, weird, analog extremists. And me and this group of analog extremists, we're going to go forward and we are going to make the most incredible analog communications network you've ever seen. And I've been working on it for the last 60 years, don't you know? And boy, I'm going to take everything over. So I get all my lobbyists out there. I get everybody to say, no, we're going with analog. I get my local mayors to say analog's the way to go. And I throw my radio tower up and I plug my radio in and I start broadcasting. But the world has gone to digital. So my stupid message is getting nowhere through my stupid analog system that I built that the world has left behind. And guys, that's what's going on with Project 2025. That's what's going on with this. Let's bait you out to try to, make you, fire a gun at a police officer or you know what? This is what I'm seeing in the future. I am seeing, watch for the white people that come in there and shoot the police with bullets, or shoot the FBI agents, or shoot the military with bullets. Watch the white people doing that. The young white people who look like little skinheads. They're the ones. We do have some danger of this coming up, and I sure hope we can hit a temperate spot. But they're the ones that are doing it. And these folks are put up to it by the Heritage Foundation. They are put up to enacting these rounds of violence by the extremists. They are homegrown terrorists that want our country to fall apart. And the only way to get it to fall apart is to actually injure the military or injure law enforcement officers in a mortal way. So we're going to be seeing some news articles about really crazy protesters who are starting big incited riots and then disappearing. And of course, our people of color are going to get arrested. Obviously, right? Not the weird little white skinhead who ran in and got the problem starts going to be everybody else who pays that price. So if you're listening to this today, I would love you to put your great big empathic, compassionate brain on ways that we as a country can show our disdain for what's going on with ICE and everything else in a way that is lawful and nonviolent, yet still will interrupt the actions. Now, that's really hard because, it would be really, really, really difficult to, it takes a very strategic group of people to psychologically train an incredibly large crowd of American citizens on how not to do what every American is trained to do, which is be violent and scream and yell and get in somebody's face. Yet that's what's going to be needed because this administration and its old world tactics and its sponsors, sponsored by the evil in the Heritage Foundation and the authoritarian regime of Vladimir Putin, we're looking at a sponsorship from people who only know old world tactics. Now, if you change it up, and this is what I'm really imploring everybody to do on the big reset, if we change it up, then they're not going to know what to do because there's nothing in the analog playbook for a digital response. Are you getting what I'm laying down here? So one of the things we can do as we watch this unfold in Los Angeles here is one of the things we can do is really get online and begin to appeal to everybody, including folks that might not have voted the same way we did, to say, do we really want our good men and women of the military deployed against our own people for enacting their freedom of speech? Because, all they're showing on the news is the one driverless car on fire over and over and over again, as if the entire city of LA is up in smoke, which it's not. So even the media is not helping this. And the big reset, guys, is about seeing through the tactics. It's about not participating with the tactics. And it's about bringing in a new way. And it's also about money, guys. We're reading a lot right now about how inflation is continuing to raise. Well, no kidding, right? That tariffs will do that. Yet, how we use our money, guys, in the big reset is massive. And you got to remember that money comes from us in this country. We pay the taxes. We buy the Nikes. We buy the gasoline. We buy. We Americans are trained to be addicted to things: sugar, sex, retail therapy, ordering on Temu, ordering on Shein, ordering on Amazon. We are serotonin and dopamine chasing junkies in this country. We're on Adderall. We're drinking ourselves sick and silly. We're drinking so much caffeine that our kidneys have turned into a Starbucks, okay? This is what we've become in the United States on the other end of sociopathic consumerism that must have us buy things in order for it to survive. Now, any system, gang, will develop a consciousness if given enough time. This is truth. So we have this consumerist system that wants to stay alive. The consciousness of consumption, consumer, to consume, like a Pac-Man, waka, 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 right? It's like a Pac-Man. And so we're trained to be these addicted, consuming people in America. And what do? We spend our money for the things that we're addicted to and that we think we need, chasing that serotonin and dopamine hit in our brain. So when we think about how we've been trained versus resetting into a conservation mindset, resetting into I shouldn't just think about my little addicted self. I should think about my neighbor, thinking about a global mindset, not just the self. When we reset into thinking about our consumption habits, how much am I consuming? Gang, we're talking 300 million addicts here having a hard time making different choices in America, okay? Now, I'm not throwing the word addict around lightly, and I certainly don't intend any disrespect to those who have gone through really, really, really tough roads with, let's say, alcohol or drug or sex addiction in recovery. I am simply stating the truth. We are bred to be addicted to things in this country because it makes somebody money. Look how much sugar is in our food. Sugar. I mean, poor JFK Jr., whatever happened to his brain? Oh my goodness, that poor thing. He's wanting to make food more clean, which is probably one thing I could at least agree with him on. Yet, sugar, guys, is in everything. Corn syrup is in everything. These were our 1950s Food and Drug Administration buy-offs in Congress so that we could use the byproducts of corn. That they had so much corn syrup back in the 50s, you guys, they had so much of it. It was a byproduct of making silage, which is cow food for those who are not in the egg community. And so they'd process all this corn and, they had all this syrup, this sugar that came off of it. It was toxic and noxious, but boy, you could sure sweeten things with it. So, of course, the corn industry lobbied and turned corn syrup into an edible product, which is one of the reasons why nobody in Europe takes our food, because we take the garbage from processing and we don't want to waste it. So we decide it's an ingredient in absolutely everything we eat. So that guy over there can make some money. This is how we're an addicted country. And we all know that sugar is literally 10 times more addictive to the brain chemistry of a human being than cocaine or crack, okay? So it's bad. So we are indeed a country of addicts. And if you ever question that, how many people do you know, perhaps you are one, who go to the drive-thru at Starbucks and you get a big old triple, quadruple latte that's 24 ounces, and you get 4 pumps of vanilla and you get 2 pumps of chocolate. Do you know how much sugar is in one of those pumps, you guys? It's insane. So, we're literally breeding diabetic people, and I'm not trying to shame one person about your coffee habits. Guys, I'm stating a truth here. And I'm sorry if this is upsetting, but it's just true. I love my sweets. I'm not saying I'm not part of this whole thing. So I'm just saying, sugar addicts people. It gets people back in that coffee line. When I was working at Starbucks, you guys, this is an aside. When I was an early 20-something, 21, 22, 23 years old, I was working at Starbucks in Seattle. And we were told that first of all, we had 8-ounce cups back then because everybody wasn't so desperate to have a bucket of drug that they, rewarded themselves with that day so that they could feel good about going to a job they hated. But we were told it was 1 pump for 1 pump of vanilla. If somebody wanted extra chocolate, that was 2 pumps. But the pumps back then, you guys, were an ounce. Okay? I have a friend who they weren't even an ounce. I think they were like a half an ounce, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I have a friend who was telling me that the pumps now are pumping out about 2 ounces of material into your drink. So, depending on the coffee shop you go to. So we're putting more sugar in everything. We're getting everybody more addicted. Sugar also affects your critical thinking. It affects the prefrontal cortex. It affects how you put thoughts together. So we're at least a sugar-addicted country. And what does that do? It causes diabetes. And then we've got to go and get addicted to medicine. And that's going to cost $1 million. So we're making a bunch of people in the United States of America a bunch of money by having a greed and avarice problem and an addictive problem. And we're greedy for certain things because we've trained our system to have to eat it or have to do it or seek that dopamine high. Guys, the big reset is about waking up out of the matrix. It's about waking up off of autopilot. It's about coming out of this cycle of, well, I got to feed myself with my 5-shot triple mocha, quadruple gazillion 95-ounce mocha. That's my consolation prize. I'm spending $8 every day, but I'm going to complain about how my insurance rates rose. But by God, my $8 every day I can justify. Guys, that's crazy. Okay, now I'm not saying don't have your treats. I'm Italian. I love my treats. I love going on a road trip. I love going through the coffee shops. I'm not saying we shouldn't support our local stores. I am saying that in the big reset, we are being asked to moderate. We are being asked to look at our consumption. We are being asked to look at how we just addict to a person. Oh, this is my president. He's going to save America. Thank you, Jesus. Here's my president. I'm going to go on an autopilot and drink 75,000 pounds of sugar today in my 200-gallon big gulp of Super Mountain Dew. I mean, guys, we just drug ourselves into oblivion in this country to survive. And the big reset is saying, hey, could you not do that anymore? You are so valuable. You are so brilliant. You know, I know things are hard, and I know you're drowning in debt, and I know you can't even put food on your table for your kids, and your bank account's scraping, and you're getting hit with overdraft fees. I know that. I'm looking down at you and I'm seeing your gas tank's hardly full and you're walking everywhere and you're having to go out to eat with everybody and you're loading up before you go out to eat on every top ramen pack you got in your cupboard. So by the time you go out and eat, you can have an $8.99 appetizer and not break the bank and spend the rest of the money on a drink or two. As a matter of fact, I'm watching you drink a bunch of beers at home, so you're only milking one beer out meeting your friends because you're struggling. The universe knows what's going on right now, guys. And it needs us to be okay with just waking up out of this big fat haze and looking at where we're really at. And again, there's no shame in this, guys. Life is freaking hard right now. It's hard for everybody. I do not have one client right now, not one, that I talk to on the phone. And yes, I'm still doing readings. I do not have one client who calls me up and says, oh my God, I'm so financially set. What a great time. My God, I'm making money hand over fist. Wow, am I rich? I have people calling me who have lost everything in the stock market, or they've lost their jobs because big employers in high dollar areas to live, like San Francisco and San Diego and Los Angeles, are pulling out of these areas. So people who are used to making $300,000 a year they don't have a job anymore. And maybe their spouse makes that. And I know there's those of you out there listening going, oh my God, well, I'm hardly feeling sorry for anybody with $600,000 a year. You know what the big reset's asking us to do? Have a little compassion. Educate, understand. So, as example, I know of folks who have both lost their $300,000 a year jobs. They have 4 kids. They live in the Bay Area. And their house is being foreclosed on because it's really, really hard to pay the mortgage on a $10 million home when you're not making $600,000 a month. Now, I know there's those of you out there that probably were raised more like me, and the idea of a $10 million home is mind-boggling. But in different parts of the country, guys, people have different cultures. They are raised differently. If you go to California, you can't even get like a 2-bedroom, no-basement crap hole with cracking freaking stucco on the outside for less than $1 million. It's insane. So rather than being judgy, which I'm not going to say I don't judge. Sometimes I hear, oh, you lost your $10 million house. Well, why'd you pay $10 million for your house? Because there was no other house in that area. And that's where these people live. And $10 million was a bargain and they could pay the mortgage at the time. So we're being asked in the Big Reset, how do we spend our money? What kind of steward of our resources are we going to be? And so this family I'm talking about, basically couldn't pay their mortgage, and with their 4 kids, couldn't find another job that's going to pay you $300,000 a year anywhere right now. Nobody wants to pay anybody to do anything right now. So they're having to move back with one of these individuals' parents in the Midwest, deep Midwest. Okay. So the culture is totally different. One of these folks is getting a job at Walmart just to have a job. And I understand, I can feel some of the schadenfreude out there right now. I can feel some people just being like, serves them right. Now they can know how the other half lives. Guys, watch that. Watch that in us. Watch that response. That's not a good response, guys. I'm not saying you got to be Mother Teresa, but I'll tell you why it's not a good response. Because when we hear about the misfortunes of others, if it is met with that little gleeful, well, good, serves them right, what you're telling the universe is that you, or what, I'll just use the universal you don't believe that you would ever be in line for gifting of that nature. In other words, you don't actually believe you'd ever be in line for a $300,000 job. You don't ever believe you could live in a $10 million house. So you have to be thrilled when someone else's life falls apart. Now, none of us are perfect, and there are going to be some great big lessons coming for some of our key figures in the United States of America surrounding financial loss. Elon Musk is one of them. It hasn't happened yet, but old Elon is going to get hit with financial loss. Now, Elon is a person who's on the spectrum. So he's not actually as burning about the money as somebody like Trump. Elon's all about his tasks. He's a task-oriented person. He wants to be congratulated for the achievement of his tasks. He's not actually as money-driven as you'd think. His task was to save the United States money, so he just slashed and slashed and slashed in Doge to get an attaboy from Trump, because Trump is roughly the age of Elon Musk's dad, and Elon has a horrible relationship with his father. So there's this dad-son thing going on with those two, and that just blew out. And of course, at a certain moment, Donald Trump was going to throw Elon out as soon as Donald Trump's popularity dipped, because just like he would with any of his kids are dispensable to him. On one hand, he loves them very much. And on the other hand, if his children get in the way of who and what he is, they're out. That's a clinical narcissist. So when you're looking at money lessons, and like this family that I'm talking about who basically had to gut everything, short sell the home, and, move back to Iowa. And this couple gave me permission to share this story, by the way, everybody. They gave me permission to share the story in the context of, how do we go forward being a steward of our resources? And both of these individuals had a very, very interesting take on all of this happening in their lives. And the interesting take was that once they were out of the hamster wheel, once they were out of the addicted cycle, they both, after they had their nervous breakdowns, right, they both had this amazing realization that neither one of them were really living. I mean, you're talking going to work. They had huge commutes. They were gone out of this $10 million house, which again is a cheapie for the Bay Area for a family of 4. They were gone out of their house. Are you ready for this? 12, 13, 14. 14 hours every day. They got home. They ordered out. They never cooked. They spent tons of money on a gorgeous kitchen. They never cooked. They always ordered in. Their, teenage kids were always getting food on the fly. They'd go to sleep, rinse, repeat, wake up, and do it again. They were working on the weekends. This was the cycle they had gotten in. They were so deeply in that addicted matrix of, well, now I got to earn the money. Now I bought this big house. Now I've got to keep, food on the table, that it got insane, guys. And both of these individuals reflected back to me that it was terrifying when their world collapsed and they realized, oh my God, we've got to move back to, Iowa with my parents. If you've never been to Iowa, it's quite a culture shock from the Bay Area of California, okay? So one of the things that they realized after the big shock and the fear and the tears and the freak out was one of them said, oh my God, I realized how incredibly relieved I was on this weird subconscious level. All of a sudden, I was happier when I woke up. All of a sudden, I'm actually counting my pennies in my bank account, which I was doing before, but now I'm really counting it. And now we're really making an effort to do family things together. And we cook at home. And we loved cooking, but we never had any time to cook. So they literally, a family of 4, moved back in with one of these couples' parents and are all living in a basement in Iowa, okay? Restructuring what's important in their life. So many months later, and this was maybe a couple of months ago, I caught up with this couple and they had adjusted remarkably well. The kids were a little freaked out because that's a big difference in high schools going from Iowa to, the Bay Area to Iowa. However, one of the kids who could not get on a volleyball team at their school in California because it was just kind of Richie Riches and everybody kind of endowed the school. And if you endowed the school, you got to be on the team. And these 2 people, even though they were making $600,000 a year, did not have the kind of money to pay the school to get the kids on the teams. So they weren't on them. So the kids were actually on the basketball team. They were on the volleyball team. They were doing speech and drama and debate. They weren't getting X'd out because they couldn't afford to elbow their way in. And the teams are really super greatly excited to have them because they live in a fairly rural area. So there's a whole different life that everybody is learning to live. Now, the moral of the story is, yay, let's not just, be super happy that we have to short sell our house and pick up stakes and move across the country. But in the big reset, the moral of the story is, guys, we have been drugged out of our mind since the 1950s with the idea of the nuclear family and everybody has to have a car and everybody has to have a house and everybody has to have, don't inherit grandma's cooking spoons. Let's all go buy 50 cooking spoons because we each need our own cooking spoon. This was a consumeristic tactic to drive the economy after World War II, guys. And we have been laboring under this thing ever since. So now we're all neurotic and addicted and tired and out of our minds. So we get this lesson of Trump. And I'm going to do whatever I want because, there's this deep dream in every American. I'm just going to do whatever I want. Whatever I want. I'm lawless. It's like Steve McQueen on the open desert road. Except for the fact that we do have laws and except for the fact that we do not exist in a bubble and except for the fact that if we get into that, all of a sudden we're separating ourselves from the greater good. Because when it's all about me, I'm not paying attention to my neighbor. So as you can see, this is a pretty layered, complex problem. And in the big reset, we are going to be asked, what kind of steward are you of your community, of your family, of your resources? And guys, I'm not saying we all need to go and suck a mung bean and call that a hot Friday night. Okay? I'm not saying we need to go crazy and become these, religious extremists of lack. We don't need to be that person. But you got to admit, guys, God, the United States a few years back, guys, was 45% of China's budget and gross national product was the crap we bought from China. Now, look, I am not any great big fan of Donald Trump. I was not a fan of his when he was a Democrat back in the 80s and 90s either. I just, I wasn't a fan of his when he was a Democrat during the Apprentice early years. I knew people who worked on his shows, and they were like, oh my God, this guy's crazy, and he'll grab your butt and everything else you got. If you're a girl, just get out of his way. He's nasty. So I was not a fan of his ethic for a long time. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's Republican. He's not a Republican. He's a whatever. He's an I will be a Martian. Just keep me out of prison is what he is right now. So when I heard Donald Trump make a statement, probably a good month ago now, right around there, saying that things were going to get tight in our economy and everybody was going to have to just suck it up and endure it for a little bit. And I think this was actually a couple months ago. It was right as Doge was diving in, cutting everything apart and being idiotic about it. Donald Trump came out with a statement that on one hand, I weirdly agreed with. And I thought to myself, well, God, I feel really awkward about this because isn't this the guy I'm supposed to not like, right? But you guys, it's part of the big reset, is to see the truths through the messenger that we may not agree with. It's part of the big reset. So I really had to sit with this. And the truth that I heard him say, even though why he was saying it was ridiculous, was this. He said, well, there's going to be some kids out there who instead of getting $10 for Christmas might only get $2. Now, I'll tell you, his being a billionaire and telling middle America how to budget when he doesn't budget at all was horrifying. However, this is part of the big reset where we see truths everywhere and we don't throw them out just because somebody's wearing a jersey we don't like, okay? He's not entirely wrong about the $2 thing, and I'll tell you why. We have so much crap in our landfills, you guys. And one of the biggest providers of the crap is China. Now, obviously, Trump has gone back and forth on his tariffs and this and that. And there's a ton of people who ordered off of Temu, and I've ordered off of Temu. I mean, I'll be transparent here. When I was getting my house built, I found the exact same towel rack, right down to the brand, on Temu for like $30. And on Amazon and online, that same exact towel rack was $130. So yeah, I bought it off of Temu with the same freaking towel rack, you guys. And it came from a warehouse in the United States. So whatever that was about. But so I'm not saying I don't buy things on Temu or didn't. What I am saying is that we are such a wasteful country. Fast fashion, guys, fills up our landfills like mad. And spare toys and all that plastic gunk that you buy. You're like, oh, I really need this. I saw it on the socials. There's this kitchen gadget that's plastic. I need it. And you get the kitchen gadget and you use it for like a month and you're like, this is stupid. It doesn't work. And it just sits in your drawer. And then eventually it goes to the garage sale. Somebody else buys it. Then it ends up in their dumpster and it makes its way to the landfill. So when Trump was saying, well, maybe the kids will have $2 instead of 10, my attention was drawn to how we spend our money, what we are the steward of, and the excess to which we feel we are entitled in the United States of America. Think about that. We are so entitled over here, you guys. And I'm an American. I'm not pretending I'm not entitled about certain things, because I sure am, because I'm an American. But at least I know that so I can work on it. When we're in these really weird holes of denial, guys, we're not waking up out of the matrix. That is not part of denial is part of the old world. The big reset demands coming forward and doing things differently and looking at things differently, okay? So one of the things that I'm looking at differently is my own consumption of things. And when Donald Trump said, well, maybe they'll have $2 instead of 10, I thought, you know what? We're so mad in America that our $3 spoons on Temu are going to cost $10 because we think we're just so entitled to be able to buy at a discount. Why are we entitled to buy anything? That's insane. Do you see the addictive nature that the old world has imprinted on us over here? Nobody's going to die if you don't buy 19 spoons. I mean, unless you're opening a restaurant, but I mean, come on. But look where our head's at. Look at the panic America flew into. We immediately, with tariffs is what I'm referencing here. I'm not talking food. Food's a different issue, you guys. Food's a whole different issue. So that's not what I'm talking about here. I am talking about goods. And there was this huge media panic when Trump did his tariffs around, oh my God, Christmas is going to bankrupt everybody. We went right to our need to buy and how we weren't going to be able to do it and how we were going to be inconvenienced by high prices for crap. Now, gang, obviously, we have a greed-driven country. We have a greed-driven fake problem of inflation, except for now we actually have inflated numbers because of tariffs. But even then, Trump's like backpedaling like crazy. You know, the taco thing that he just can't stand up to anything he says because he's just bluffing. But it still rattles the economy, guys. So the point is, in the big reset, how do we conserve? Because our globe needs us to do that societally, and also our planet needs us to do that. Guys, we're running out of landfills. Did you know that? We're running out of landfill space. There are companies that are leasing massive, weird, rural pieces of like desert and just dumping crap in it because our consumption is off the hook in America. Now, I'm not saying don't buy yourself a treat. I'm not saying don't have a nice Christmas. But do we really need to buy as much stuff as we do? You know, I mean, maybe we do. Maybe some people need that. But shouldn't we really kind of be thinking, wow, if I'm buying this plastic thing, then it's got to get manufactured. And yes, that's jobs. That's other people's jobs for sure. Most of those jobs are in China. And if I'm doing that plastic thing, that's oil. And it goes to this whole consumption issue that's so huge. So in our big reset, you guys, again, I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm not trying to say I'm better than anybody. I'm sure not. I'm not better than anybody here. I'm an American just like you. Yet I am observing that we've got some really dysfunctional ways of being over here, that if we're going to move forward in this new world and survive the climate crises that we have coming to us that are going to be really severe after this summer we're going to have crazy out of control fires to record levels. We're going to have floods in the weirdest places that they should be on the fires, but they're not. We're going to have so much going on, you guys. We're going to be filling up we're going to be filling up landfills with just the most sad, weird crap that catch fire. Wait till the landfills catch fire. This is really going to be great. I mean, you guys, we have got to put the brakes on being anesthetized and asleep. And this situation with Trump in America and sending the troops to Los Angeles is just ridiculous. It is designed to make people riot so that martial law can be enacted. So please don't riot. Figure out a better way to do it. Let's thwart the old world by bringing in the digital playbook to their analog tactics. That's what the big reset is. And part of it is dialing back our spending, because let's talk about this real quick before we're out of time here. Billionaires like to be billionaires. They like to stay billionaires. The only billionaire I know that could care less if he's a billionaire, but is going to just be inconvenienced if he can't go to Mars, is Elon Musk. So if we curb our own avarice and our own desperation, and instead go into each one of ourselves and start asking ourselves, where am I miserable? Where am I afraid? What am I self-medicating with? And just pick one, because there's probably a lot of things in there. I know I have more than one thing that I'm afraid of. So just pick one. Pick one. And start addressing what that one fear is driving you to do. Are you afraid you just settled out as a 50-something in a job you absolutely hate, but now you're stuck in it till retirement? So you're going to drink 50 gallons of sugar every day via your local coffee shop and you've earned it? Okay. Consider, however, what that's going to do to your body and, consider what it's going to do to your retirement when you're eating all that money up in medical costs, right? So if we can just stop the hamster wheel, go outside, leave your phone in the house. Don't check it first thing in the morning. Give yourself 5 to 15 minutes of no phone time. And I've had clients say, well, I can't do that. I've got to check for work the minute I get up. I'm like, good, then set your alarm 15 minutes earlier because your work won't know you're up. And you should see the look on folks' face. They're like, what? You want me to do what? You want me to wake up 15 minutes earlier? Yes, I do. I would love you to wake up 15 minutes earlier. Go out and sit on your front stoop and listen to the birds and breathe the air. Go outside and watch the sunrise. Go outside and just, if you live in a deep, deep city, go out and just smell your tomato plants on your back deck. You don't have any plants? Go outside and just sit. Nowhere to sit? Go take a walk. You can't take a walk? Open your window and sit next to your window with a chair. I can keep going all day because we are being begged by the universe to be present. We are being begged by the universe to get into a place of compassion for ourselves and for others and to not melt into this giggling little puddle of schadenfreude every time something bad happens to somebody we don't like or we're jealous of deep down. Until we can actually look at that and say, God, what a scary thing to have happen. Yes, we're all probably going to have the flutter of, well, you shouldn't buy a $10 million house, but get past it. Because if we can't get to a place of compassion in this big reset, then we are going to fare wickedly poorly when it comes time to deal in the next couple of years, which is coming. We're right on top of it. We're going to be faring wickedly poorly with dealing with our climate issues, where food becomes more scarce and water becomes more scarce. We are going to have a heck of a time. So the big reset that's happened, we're looking at the analog applications of civics and social hierarchy, how it's falling apart in our digital world. We're watching this happen. And we are being asked, how do you bring change here? How do you not turn into more of the problem? How do you not just drug yourself silly and say, someone else will handle it? Because guess what? Nobody else is going to handle it. It's down to me and you. We're who's going to handle it, guys. That's it. That's it. And if we resort to violence, if we resort to the old world, if we become the oppressors that we have fought so hard against to not be oppressed by, to only become them, man, we're starting back at ground zero. We are failing the COVID experience all over again. The big reset. So evaluate your budget. It's going to be real important to have, even if you're saving $10 a month, guys, it's going to be really important that you have just a little money tucked away. And it's not that I'm trying to be doom and gloom girl or fear consciousness girl, because yes, there is prosperity for everyone and there is enough for everyone. But I'll tell you what the universe is not going to do anymore. Cover our party haze butts anymore. Because nature needs our help. The earth needs our help. Not buying 1 million plastic spoons because we're drilling and making plants to make a spoon out of plastic that's barfing a bunch of stuff into the air that's killing the areas in Africa. Actually, you can look and see a dead, dry band of Africa that was killed off in the 70s and 80s from huge toxins being barfed into the air from China, making their way across the water and just creating a drought section because of the chemicals in the air. And yes, Africa's dry. So think about not being afraid to be present. Give yourself 5 or 10 minutes in the morning to wake up. Be grateful for what you have. Be present in your life. If you use, and guys, I'm using this low-hanging coffee thing as an example, so you do you. But if you're used to spending $8 every morning on a coffee, try something different. Try making a thermos, try making a bunch of coffee in the morning, and maybe you invest in a whipped cream maker. And maybe you drink coffee with some whipped cream sprayed on top of it instead. And maybe you put a little vanilla in that whipped cream. And maybe you just give your palate a week to adjust. All right? Maybe you put a little stevia in there. I don't know. You do you. But you take that $8 a day and maybe you just stick it somewhere else in your bank account. And you're like, you know what? I might need this. And I'm going to show the world I don't need to be using a paper cup with a plastic lid every single day. I know a lot of people who are repeat coffee, people who bring their own cups. Well, good for you too. I'm not saying don't support your local coffee shop. Maybe you go on Friday. Maybe it's your Friday treat, not your every morning treat, We are being asked to not just be addicted nightmares. We are being asked to be mindful, be present, be grateful, be good stewards, learn how to share, be kind. Don't be Schadenfreude person when somebody's struggling. We're going to see a lot of powerful people fall in the next 2 years, you guys. And if we're just screaming and yelling and chanting, yay, like somebody made a touchdown, I'm sure there'll be parts of all of us that are like, well, thank God that guy's gone. But we don't have to revel in someone's distress. That's not moving into the new world, guys. That's staying the oppressor. And it hurts your chances of going on to shine just because karmically that's rough. So let us all just focus on the big reset. We're going to be seeing some things in the news coming up that are really disturbing. And they have to do with how the government deals with its citizens in the United States. So when we see these things, let's not lose our mind. We're part of the big reset. We're going to be part of the solution. When we see these things, we're going to bring different modalities to the table. So this was a big, big mouthful in the new studio. Big mouthful. But know that we're going to get out of this with such joy, such hope. We're going to build a new United States of America based on the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few. We got a lot of work to do before that comes, but this is the end result. Yet the end result only gets here if we wake up out of the matrix, reset, understand that we won't die if we have just a little less consumption, and really take some pride in what you have already. Repurposing stuff. Repurpose. It's so fun. My wife and I are doing this. We bought, took 8 years and the help of a lot of people, but we built a house out in a little town in Montana. And we repurpose everything, you guys. We used repurposed cattle poles for fencing. We used repurposed tubing for different things. It is actually really a cool feeling to repurpose stuff. It's fun. It's a challenge. It's artistic. It's what we're supposed to be doing where we're at in our world. So the big reset is your friend. Embrace it. Embrace this opportunity to make yourself less stressed out financially and also to make yourself less emotionally stressed out about people we can't do anything about. So, it feels great to be back with everybody, guys. Feels great. We'll get the other podcasts up here. And thanks for letting me cut this one in line. It's kind of an important message today. And I will see you all next podcast.